Carl, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Dennis. It's great.
According to this big screen here, you're co-founder of Homeaway, Chief Strategy and Development Officer.
I also wash dishes and take out garbage. Yeah.
That's a long title.
It's a long title.
But you're in it for the long haul. You co-founded Homeaway in 2005. You have more than 1 million listings covering more than 190 countries. Why do you think this category is so hot at the moment of alternative accommodations, and where do you think it's headed?
Well, that's a great question. When we formed the company in 2005, neither Brian nor I actually had any clue as to how big the vacation rental industry actually was. There was actually no data. The first study that was ever done on the vacation rental industry we did in conjunction with going public in 2011, and that was when we finally could afford to commission a study to say, how big is this thing that we're really talking about? We knew it was big. Today, we know that there are about 10 to 15 million homes, the second homes worldwide. Our side of the market really is the core second home market where people maintain second homes specifically to rent to the public. So they're much more hotel-like than some of our competitors. And that's one thing that separates us from some of the competition. But what's driving it right now is the value. It's a great value. It always has been. It's just been the value no one knew about. And that is that it's half as much as expensive to stay in a vacation home for a family as it would be to have a hotel. They're the best types of places for families and groups traveling together to stay because you can have a sense of privacy and camaraderie you can't possibly get in a hotel by playing in the lobby. We used to use the line that your kids can't build a snowman in the lobby, but they can build one outside your vacation home. So it's really something that's true. And the last thing is that it's such a tremendous value for people who are actually making their properties available. The average Homeaway subscriber gets a 30 times return on his investment for that subscription. And it means that people can afford vacation homes that couldn't afford them in the past. So things are coming together to make it a pretty interesting category.
You talk about your market being second homes primarily. And I can recall at different conferences hearing Homeaway officials talk about how your market is distinct from the peer-to-peer apartment market. And it's mostly resort towns. But I see, in the last couple of years, maybe even earlier, Homeaway lists a lot of properties in big cities, New York, Chicago, you name the city. Mm-hmm. And Airbnb is listing a lot of apartments in resort towns. So do you see a lot of convergence taking place, and what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a good observation. I think that the companies, we admire and respect the guys at Airbnb a lot because what they have done is actually create an industry where there was no industry before. They brought people, and a couple of very interesting things that they've done. The first thing is that they've made it possible for people with no capital to actually participate in this business. And by that, I mean, you don't have to own a second home anymore. You can rent the apartment that you have. So that's a whole new market. And when we say that it's a different segment from us, it has been historically. They are seeing more activity in vacation rental destinations, just as we are seeing more and more activity in cities. So we are kind of overlapping in that perspective. But in terms of travelers, our core market are families and groups traveling together who are looking for the unique privacy that a vacation rental can offer. And I think their customer may age into that, but their customer right now, when they age into it, there is actually a better alternative, which is to stay in a dedicated vacation home versus somebody else's house that they've moved out of so that you can move in. So I think that they'll always coexist. I think they're both very large markets, and we admire them a lot.
Great. In the transportation realm, we're starting to see different sites emerge. We might call them multimodal sites. I'm thinking of sites like in Europe of Go Euro and Rome to Rio, where you could book a flight, you can book a train ticket, you can buy a ferry ticket, rent a car. Are we going to see the same sort of thing happen in vacation rentals, where there'll be all different types of properties, not just in vacation rentals? Are we going to see hotels and vacation rentals and yurts and gazebos and apartments all on one site? Is this the direction we're going in?
Well, I love Rome to Rio. It's a great site. The answer to that's multifaceted. Today, at any one point in time, if you ask the general public about what they want to do and where they want to stay, only about 30% of people today even know that it's an alternative, that you can stay in a vacation home versus a hotel. So we look at this as continued opportunity for the category to grow as that number goes up. So we did recently a deal, our first deal of its type with Expedia. We're distributing 115,000 online bookable homes on Expedia, and they are surfacing those inside of their normal search results. They don't have a vacation rental tab. And the reason for that is the integration is very specific. In order to find a vacation home on Expedia, they want to be looking for that perfect customer. They're using big data to do that. They will find the people who, I'm going to simplify it down and dumb it down far more, and I'm probably insulting everyone at Expedia. If you're here from Expedia, I apologize. But basically, they're going to say if you're looking more than 21 days out, and if you have a group of 3 or more traveling together and you're looking for 2 hotel rooms, they're going to surface the idea that you know that you could also rent this house or this apartment. And we look at that as saying that's our way to find the other 70% of people who aren't even thinking about us yet. So the Expedia transaction for us is really about introducing the vacation rental experience to more folks. There's no question that we have competitors. The young woman who was just up here from TripAdvisor, they have a very healthy vacation rental business. It's a very incestuous business. We supply about 70,000 of their listings to TripAdvisor that we redistribute to them as well. And our friends at Booking.com are really going very heavy in the vacation rentals and villas in Europe. So are they converging? I think the evidence would say yeah.
Speaking of Booking.com and TripAdvisor, do you see anything that your competitors are doing, the way Booking.com has been going about it, that you say, hey, that's pretty cool, or they're doing a pretty good job, or the converse?
Well, I don't want to give away. I'm not concerned for a lot of reasons. I think that a vacation rental is a very considered expense. For each person who's out there, if you're going to spend, let's say you're a household income of $45,000 a year, a $900 week is a very considered purchase for you. If you're a Wall Street guy with $4.5 million, a $50,000 week is a very considered purchase. There's a lot that goes into actually booking a vacation home that goes beyond just the fact that it's available and online. So there is, you're also dealing with vacation homes, the fact that these are very expensive assets, and in the families that have these homes, they are significant assets. So if you can imagine turning your $1 million beachfront property over to 25-year-old bankers who used to be in Phi Delta Theta, that is their worst nightmare. They really, bankers is number one who they don't want, but frat boys comes close number 2. So you kind of look at it and say that that's a very considered purchase for both the seller and the buyer, right? You want to make sure you've got the perfect home that your wife is not going to bitch about for the next 2 years, as mine has done on one home in particular. Or you want to make sure if I have a vacation home that I rent out, I want to make sure that the people who are going to stay in that home actually are going to take care of it in the way that I want it taken care of. Because if you match those two things up, another reason this category is so hot for owners is that it is less wear and tear on your property to have a vacation rental usage in short-term rentals than a long-term renter. Vacationers take great care of your property, and long-term renters bring big dogs in who poop on your carpets. So it's just like, it's much better activity.
Homeaway has been very active in acquiring companies. You've probably acquired close
23.
to 23. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
So that has to be, a very big focus, obviously, in integrating them and everything. But has Homeaway fallen behind on the user experience end of the equation, and what are you doing to improve that?
Well, we've always cared about our travelers, and we have to balance, as a marketplace, we have to balance the needs of, we have two customer groups. We have our owners who, without our owners, we have nothing to present to a traveler, and without a traveler, we can't satisfy owners. So we have to keep those two things in balance. There are people who would argue that we've been so busy aggregating the industry that we have short-shifted traveler experience, but most of those people are under 30 years old. And that's really critical for a reason. We've been talking today a lot about millennials and millennial expectations. Millennials did grow up in this completely wired world. I have one. I begat, 3 millennials, and I can say that I got a kid all the way through Dartmouth College and one through Northwestern, neither one of whom ever stepped foot in a library, nor did they have books. They have been online since they were in 6th grade. So the notion that this group is going to behave the same way their parents behaved is, I think one of the gentlemen this morning was talking about it, completely wrong. What those millennials haven't gotten to yet is how difficult it is when you have something that is not immediately online, bookable online. And that is going to happen, and that is the case with a lot of vacation rentals. So we are moving to, over the next 2 years, you'll see us move. All of our properties will be bookable online in the next 2 years, but that's got to come at a sea change with owners, because we have to convince that owner that we can still safeguard their asset at the same time we convince that millennial that this is the right house. So those are going to be things that we're exercising a lot of time and attention to. As far as why we acquired that many companies so quickly is that it's a real simple answer. When we started to put this company together, we flew under the radar for the first 2 years, almost 2.5 years. We released Homeaway. The first time the world even knew we'd acquired all the companies that formed us on the first day was 2.5 years after we started. But after we started, the lemmings in venture capital started chasing this space. So we had no choice but to just raise a shit ton of money and go out and buy everything we can. And so we raised a shit ton of money and we bought everything we could. And the whole point for that was we knew that he who got there first would really have the dominant market position. So we are the market leader that very few people write about. We are so much larger than any one of our competitors. We kind of laugh about it internally and say, we really need to do something about this. We need to make sure people understand how large Homeaway really is.
I'd assume that a lot of your owners are set in their ways. A lot of your owners aren't millennials. Mm-hmm. They've been doing business a certain way for many, many years. What are you doing to, and probably many of them prefer to stay offline. What are you doing? I understand you're getting a little aggressive about getting these properties online. How are you handling that? What's ahead?
Well, we really know that you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. So we're just making the owner experience so much better on Homeaway and giving them so much more control of actually who is in their house. We give them more information about the travelers that are coming to them. We'll be introducing some tools that let them vet travelers a lot better over the time. We are also giving them tools that make their life easier. It's hard to manage a home yourself. You have to let people into your house. You have to get housekeeping. You have to do all that sort of stuff on a micro business basis. So those sorts of tools are coming. But the major thing that we're doing is we're just educating our owners every day that the world is changing. And if they don't change, there are a number of people. We add 40 to 60,000 listings a quarter. And that 40,000 listings that we add, those 40 to 60,000 listings, are coming in primarily from people under 45. And those folks are totally wired. They're wanting every tool we've got. And our older owners are just going to have to figure out, and are figuring out, that they can either decide not to participate at all, which many of them do. They don't need this money. They're doing this for other reasons than money, or they're going to need to compete. So we prefer to offer better tools over time to change our owners' behavior.
And what role does mobile play both in the booking process and once the guest arrives at the destination. Are we ever going to be able to book, or will it ever be common to book a vacation rental on a smartphone?
I will not say it will never happen. I think that, how many people in the room are married? How many people would spend $5,000 without talking to their wife or husband on a vacation? You're living very dangerously. The fact is, this is a considered purchase. And when we see people booking online, the idea, a friend of mine at Interhome has told me this, that they have about 60% of their bookings coming in online. And I said, man, that's unreal. 80% of those people who booked online had spoken to an agent during the day, during the business hours of Interhome. They booked online, but they got their questions answered about that home. How far apart are those railings? I personally have a child with Down syndrome. I don't want that railing to be, on that 15-story building, to be any lower than 48 inches. Is it 48 inches? Is that in a listing that I can find? I need to know this sort of stuff before I could take a safe vacation. So that's one problem. Mobile is huge, though, in customer experience. And we have invested, we bought a company called Glad to Have You, which has an amazing app which helps our owners transmit all the information about the house, how to use the TV, how to get in the gate codes, and they can review the house from that app. They can also find restaurants and bars that they want to go to that the owner is suggesting. So that we look at mobile more as enhance the user experience than we do as a booking tool.
In some developing countries, talking about the international question, in some developing countries where the hotel market is much different than it is in the U.S., people are first getting used to the idea of hotel brands and chains, whether they be international or local. Mm-hmm. How is Homeaway and the vacation rental industry going to come in at this point and convince them vacation rentals are the way to go?
Well, it depends on which developing country you're looking at. Eastern Europe is totally different than parts of Asia. But in general, this method of travel is ancient, and it is still very much in play. If you get off a train station in little towns in Russia, you're going to be met by people who are offering you a place to stay in their home because there aren't hotels, there aren't chains. So it's actually much more familiar in emerging markets than we think about this concept of staying alternatively, because there ain't that many alternatives. But what we have to see for our core market is we'll need to see primary home purchases grow before there are secondary homes. So the most interesting market, no doubt, in Asia is China, where the secondary home market is humongous. It dwarfs the United States. There are 65 million second homes in China today. And so we have partnered with a company there. We invested in a little company called Tujia. And Tujia is the Homeaway flagship in China. And we will invest more in Asian countries and probably build in Eastern European countries.
What's happening? What are the trends on the regulatory front? Are you happy when you see Airbnb get slapped around by this city or that, or they're somewhat of a competitor?
Well,
what's your view?
My view is that vacation rentals were made legal in San Francisco, and I didn't spend a penny, so I am thrilled. So if someone else wants to carry the water and go out and fight, that's perfectly fine with me. But the fact is, cities have different needs than vacation markets, and cities this is going to be a longer slog in cities. There are too many issues that are coming up in those cities about how there are land use issues, there are affordability issues, there's, who are you letting into my building issues. There's all that sort of stuff that's happening in big cities. So we concentrate on our core markets. Those are the vacation rental markets of the world where we just keep growing like crazy. And cities are interesting to us. I think you'll see a lot more of our work in cities in the next couple of years. But right now, I prefer to think that that we will work in cities that embrace the industry rather than cities that don't.
Like perhaps a few other companies that are represented in the audience, you haven't been known for digital marketing yourself online, but now you're making a big push. Any learnings from that so far? It's early days.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a misconception. I think we are just killer at digital marketing. I mean, our SEM strategy is just amazing, and we drive we have an average of 60 million travelers a month, and we know where they need to come from, and we know what they're going to do when they get on our site. We use data to tell us where that's going. What we have announced is interesting is the more of a move into brand. So I think over the next year and a half, you will see a lot more move into brand marketing. Homeaway is the flagship brand. Our board member, Kevin Crone, was speaking this morning, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going in the same direction he is just walking away from. But we operate under different brands in different countries. We operate as the Luga Temperata in Brazil, Thavo Direct in Germany, Stays in Australia, and that's because they have huge brand equity. So our challenge is to figure out how do you get the Homeaway brand equity to accrue to those sub-brands that are meaningful to the countries that they're in. And I think we will be able to get that. We just hired Mariano. He sits in London. Europe is our biggest challenge as far as marketing, and we're optimistic that Mariano will be the messiah who brings brand marketing to Homeaway.
Do we have time for a few audience questions?
I think so.
Back in the day, like Homeaway was charging a flat fee per listing. After the partnership with Expedia, do you think that homeowners may not be willing to list their properties on Homeaway because they have to pay like 20-25% OTA fees?
Great question. Our partnership with Expedia is not at that range because Expedia recognizes that the average ticket value of vacation home is such that they can do it for 10%, and that's what they're doing. So the notion is, but they still make a lot of money because the average vacation home is $1,600 to $2,500 a week. So it all evens out. The best deal on Homeaway and the best deal in the vacation rental industry is our subscription. Our average owner is paying about 4 points or less for marketing to fill 80% of his bookings. That's extraordinarily defensible. It's the cheapest. We have the advantage of being not only the largest, we are the lowest cost alternative of all of our competitors.
So does that mean that when you go to 100% online bookable, does that mean that you switch off subscriptions 100%?
No, we have two different types of online booking because we are really bringing an established 100-year-old industry online, right? So you can't tell people that they do business wrong. You have to do business in the way they want to do business. We have pure pay for booking, which are listings that you give us your listing, and we will surface you if we see fit, if we have the right audience, and we get paid 10% on that. Our owners who have subscriptions get bookings for free. We will do all the online booking for you. We'll keep all the records. They will not be charged an additional penny for that. Now, if they choose to go through an Expedia, they will have to agree to do that. But most vacation homeowners really don't have that challenge. Their challenge is that they've got 12 weeks to fill and 240 inquiries for those 12 weeks. They're not really sitting here thinking that I need to be everywhere. They're choosing where they need to be. So we see our property managers embracing Expedia because they love to be on that. They have lots of weeks to fill. And our homeowners are going to have to be educated as to why they can benefit from that. And the primary benefit is a wider distribution. One would think you would be able to make more money, and you'd be able to charge more. I sure wish this was a business driven by yield management, but as you may have figured out at Dwellable, it's not. And that's one of the things that we just have to challenge ourselves of helping people understand.
Great.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.